Hey, what's up, guys? This is Andrew with Combat Art Training. Today I'm going to be talking about two classes I did with Kevin Dixie of No Other Choice.
Okay, so simple. You stare at your target. I am expecting to fire into this target. That is it. I'm not expecting anything else. You come out, you get out there. Did I stop, look at the gun, flinch, or did I go and fix the gun? Fix the gun. Because I had an expectation, right? If it did not go bang, we have a problem, right? Now, how do you separate yourself out of the math or the equation of what's happening on target? You do that very simple. Everything that we went through, all the drills that we discussed up to this point of the day has been about building skill and trusting. I am staring at the target. I'm not tracking my sights. That is giving me more time back to make decisions. Boom, boom, boom. So when something happens, I'm not thinking about, well, where was my sight, or am I still on target? I don't have to, because my skill has proven to keep me there. So my expectation wasn't met. Smacking that kid on the ass, running that slide, you should have did what you were supposed to do. Let's get back in this fight.
Kevin Dixie owns the Greenwood Range, which is about 30 minutes south of Atlanta. So if you're anywhere in the South, it's very nicely located for you to go and get training. The classes I did were Evolve Pistol 1 and Evolve Red Dot Pistol 1. They're both one-day classes. Evolve Pistol 1 is about performance shooting. Evolve Red Dot Pistol 1 is about shooting with a red dot on your pistol. The two pair up nicely because oftentimes when you go take a 2-day red dot class, the way it works is just like that, where it's performance shooting, how to shoot your gun, and then how to shoot your gun with a red dot. Now, I've done several performance classes and red dot classes already. So going in, the things I was looking for most was just like, hey, how does Kevin teach? What are some of the cues he uses? What are some of the quotes he has that makes things easier for the student to digest and get better? What I got out of it was that and much more. There was a lot of new information, some things that I had been taught in other classes, but they didn't fully click with me. So the way Kevin presented some of those things, it was like, oh, that totally makes sense now. And I think it's way more useful than when I was first taught it. In Evolve Pistol 1, we had a spectrum of students where there were guys that were really good at shooting really fast already, and then some guys that were like, ah man, the shot timer freaks me out, just like it does with everyone when they first start using it. Now, for those guys that the shot timer was freaking them out and they hadn't done a performance class yet, I saw proof of concept in the way Kevin was teaching, because at the end of the class, the shot timer still freaked him out a little bit because they just haven't heard that beep enough, but they were shooting at a much higher level. Like drills that we did at the beginning of the day, we also did at the end of the day. And when we look at the way those students were performing at the beginning versus the end, they were shooting the targets clean at the end. And even if they're like, I could have done it better, it was like, dude, you improved massively. Like every shot was a hit and you were faster. Now for me, I don't use shot timers a lot in class, but now seeing the way Kevin does it, it makes me want to do it more, because Kevin demonstrated the best martial use of a shot timer that I have seen. So basically breaking it down like, hey, use this technique. Maybe it's a technique they're already using, or it's something that is often taught. And he goes, now use this technique. Now you got this many shots in this much time, and now you're getting this many shots in this much time, and the time is shorter. So considering that a gunfight lasts this long statistically, wouldn't you agree that this technique is working better for you and you're going to be able to get more hits faster and more accurately? So seeing it done that way, I really appreciated. He was able to break down technique and drills at a more of a molecular level, and we were able to dissect each individual piece of it without burning out any of the students. And so the way he was doing it, he also said, like, every drill I have like 3 ways of teaching it. So if it's a beginner guy, more moderate guy, he's done some stuff, but he's got a lot of room to grow, or a very advanced guy, now we're just looking for this one particular thing in each drill and how we're going to approach it. So that's something that I really value in an instructor too, is his teaching method isn't so much like point by point sticking to the curriculum. It's more based around the students' capabilities and what's going on in the class. It's much more fluid. Now for myself, with some new information that I got in Evolve Pistol 1 were around stance, which for me, it was always an undervalued thing, but Kevin gave me some ways that made me go, you know what, I'm gonna pay more attention to it. Like personally, when I'm shooting a drill, it's more about what's going on from my belt line up to my head and what's going on with the gun. And mentally, it messes with me if I feel like a rock or a casing under my foot. So I've kind of gotten to a point where it's like, yeah, I have a stance, but it's not something I focus on because I find it distracting. But Kevin's approach in teaching it was again more in the martial aspect, so it was a good way to blend the performance shooting with the gunfighting, and it made me think about it in a different way. And Evolve Pistol 1 is a fundamentals class, so stuff like trigger control, aiming, grip, stance, their reloads, malfunctions clearing, stuff like that. But we didn't keep it at like a basic level. Again, Evolve, the name of it, is we're trying to put an evolution into the way we do things, and we're trying to grow from it. There was a heavy emphasis on the cognitive thought process. So it wasn't just a shooting class, it was also a thinking class. I really like the way he put stuff into that, especially in Evolve Red Dot Pistol 1. I will get to that here in a minute. So when he was breaking down the fundamentals, he had certain drills that allowed you to address each fundamental in a particular way. And then we are also using a set of standards. Like I said before, at the beginning of the class, we shot these drills. At the end of the class, we shot these drills too. And I like that approach because you're able to see the growth within yourself. Throughout the class, there are certain, drills that are typical to a performance-based class, like doubles and the bill drill. And it was good too to see like the way that he uses it, not to hammer it and just be like, oh, let's go do that again, let's go do that again, but more as a way where it's like, all right, let's shoot this drill after the things we have learned and see how it improves your performance now. So it wasn't just the beginning and the end of the day that there was a set of drills where we saw the improvement. It was also a lot in the middle where we would do a drill and then do it again and a little bit after learning and applying certain techniques. Now talking about Evolve Red Dot Pistol 1, again, this is more about how to use the red dot. When you typically go to a 2-day red dot pistol class, it is a blend of performance shooting and how to use a red dot. It's kind of like, all right, before we talk about the red dot, let's talk about how we should be gripping, how should we be pressing the trigger, our stance, and all that. And I like splitting it between the 2 days. That's actually the way I do it too, because there are guys that have done a lot of shooting stuff already and they don't so much need the performance aspect, and they just need to focus on the red dot aspect. Like a guy such as myself who's already done several red dot classes and performance classes, I really like being able to go take a 1 day, hey, this is all my info on the red dot, and that gives me exactly what I'm looking for, because I may not be, myself or someone else may not be looking for exactly all the stuff within the performance realm, but more so the nuances within the red dot. So at the beginning of class with Evolve Red Dot Pistol 1, we had PowerPoints. It wasn't like a death by PowerPoint. He had a printout of the PowerPoints, and that was super handy, so we didn't have to go into the classroom. But we just, flipped through it and talked about certain subjects. One of the things that I really liked within the PowerPoint was not only just his choice in the red dot that you should be using, but the reticle size. Him talking about the reticle size, I felt he went more in depth than I've usually seen in red dot classes. And the things he was saying, I found to be true throughout the class, because he was talking about like what color, what size. And for the guys that were running something other than what he recommends, he was like, hey, like he likes a small one, he likes green. He's, the guys running a bigger one, when we get back to a certain distance, they're not able to be as precise because they can't see the target as well because that big dot is covering it. For me, it wasn't something that I had experienced before because I just stuck to, 2 or 3 MOA dots. I didn't go to any crazy big stuff. I've experimented with other reticles and always just came back to the smaller dot. But it was kind of like a subconscious thing that I understood, but I never really was articulating to anyone because I just never messed with the big ones. But being able to seeing that like, hey, if he had if he had a smaller dot, these high hits wouldn't have happened because he would have been able to actually track it on the target better. So there was a lot of stuff on what is happening with the dot throughout the shooting process, how you should be focusing on the target, and then also at the end of it, we kind of went more over how to find the dot, but the students were all very good already at finding the dot, so it wasn't an issue with anyone. But I liked the simple approach he had. There was one thing in there about how to focus on the target. And I was like, Kevin, that is gold. Like, you need to say that 5 more times in class, because it was a very simple quote and it just drove the whole point home. And I was like, man, that's money right there. In addition to that, Evolve Red Dot Pistol 1 actually has a drill that I think was the funnest drill I have ever done in a class. And I think that's important to have drills that are fun for students, because I believe that when the drills are fun, when the teaching is fun, it enhances the learning process. It makes it less work and more play, and that actually allows us to kind of loosen up, enjoy ourselves, and want to do better. So having taken performance classes and red dot classes already, of course I knew I was going to learn some new information, but the key thing I'm really looking for when I go to take classes that I've already done similar ones is just the way that they're presenting, the different cues that they're using with the students, and the different quotes that they use to drive the points home. I got all that, but I also received new information. Now, that also is a good point on why, okay, you've done one performance class or one red dot class or a rifle class or a fighting type pistol class, go take more, because there's going to be more nuances and more things that you pick up on. Kevin did a very good job of that. And again, I think breaking down performance-wise, why you want to apply certain techniques, he had the best martial application that I've seen in the way he talks. In addition to that, the students were great. That is something that I really look for when I go to a new school that I haven't trained with before. I've said it before, we could vote all the best politicians in the world into office. Would that make a difference with the way America is today? So the students that he had were all positive people. They're all doing things within their own community to improve them, and they're there improving themselves as well. So that made the class flow nicely. It also made it so that when we weren't doing drills and we weren't doing the learning stuff and we're just back loading mags, taking a break, talking, it was a really enjoyable environment. I could joke around with every guy there. I learned a lot about the way that they're running their businesses, because there were business guys there, of ways that they interact with the public, the way they conduct themselves, and that was a very positive experience. At the end of Evolve Pistol 1, we actually spent I would say 2 hours on the range, just talking, just hanging out and talking, and that was, for me, one of the most valuable things too, was just kind of hearing, especially with Kevin, the things that he has experienced within this industry. And so it's kind of like a free mentorship for me, to just sit there and just listen to him talk. So the instructor was really good, the curriculum was really good, the students were really good. Now that's the things that we need to have a solid class. In addition to that, I didn't even pick training with Kevin because I was like, he's a great shooter. Like, honestly, I hadn't really seen any of his shooting until I was in class, and then I was like, all right, yeah, he's really good. The things I liked about Kevin were, when I first met him, it was at alumni weekend at Tactical Response, and he gave a talk that informed myself on some new things that I didn't know about American history, and the rest of the alumni on some things that they didn't know. Some of those things I knew, and I was like, man, like, I wish our people knew this stuff more, because it's kind of like there's circles of people that get certain information, and especially now, you may have never even heard of Kevin Dixie because a lot of our social interactions are done right here on the internet. Now, there are positives and negatives to that, but one of the negatives is we are all victims of the algorithm. So the things you watch are the things they push you. They're just trying to keep you on the phone watching more. So I hadn't seen a lot of stuff from Kevin, even after I met him at alumni weekend, listened to him talk, and then I even hung out with him for a couple hours later that night at one of the parties that was going on. I did listen to some of his podcasts that he was on before going to class because I wanted to learn more about him. In the podcast, there was some stuff that I already knew, but there was also some new information that I hadn't heard before. One of the things that I like most about him is what he's doing with his Aiming for Truth Foundation. Aiming for Truth, he is mentoring kids who need it. I plan on getting him on my channel, and I want to do some long format content where he can really dive in and talk about it. The things he's doing has a profoundly strong, positive impact on our country. We need more of that. One of the things that disappointed me hearing was that it took him like 7 years to raise $7,000 for that foundation. And I'm like, man, with all the things that we find good about ourselves within our culture, within our circles, why does it take that long to raise that much money for Aiming for Truth? And I think that's a thing that we should all be getting involved in. We should all be supporting Kevin with. There's a link below. That's going to be the first link. And I really want to see more things like that happening within our culture. Looking at all the companies that he's been associated with throughout the years, and he's been on the cover of Time magazine. He's accomplished a lot of stuff. I think that he should be a much bigger name in this industry than he is, in the sense that not everyone knows who he is. Like, I was calling my friends and be like, hey, check out Kevin. I just trained with him. It was great. And they're like, oh yeah, I've heard his name, but I don't really know anything about him. Guys, you should get to know Kevin. You should look up his name. You should watch some of the podcasts. It's very interesting. He's a very smart dude. He's a history buff, and he knows a lot of stuff that we all should know. And the things that he's doing are having a positive impact, and we should be supporting that. Another thing he's doing to have a positive impact within his community is the Greenwood Range that he owns. He is bringing instructors in and giving them a facility where they can conduct their classes as a professional. It's not easy for instructors, especially when they're first getting started, to get access to a range and to be able to do the things that they need to do to have a good class. It's there's a lot of things that happen where it's like, oh, you brought this many students, we need more money, and we're gonna put an RSO over there and watch you, and stuff like that, where it's like, basically their instructors, new ones, will be getting told what to do by guys that have never taken a class before. So Kevin starting the Greenwood Range and then bringing other instructors in to teach their people, that is going to have a compounding positive effect, especially just in that area south of Atlanta. And I would like to see more people following his example. Like, I'm very excited for him. I'm very proud of the things that he's done already with that range. And he's telling us about the other plans he has coming. When I first met him and we were hanging out talking, he told me that he had just gotten this land and what his plans were. And it's really awesome to see that all becoming real now. So they got 2 different ranges there. They have a classroom, they have a bathroom, and there are other plans to further develop that location. And believe me, clearing out the woods like he's done takes a lot of time. Now, coming up, there's the Train and Learn event. That's going to be at the Greenwood Range. I plan on attending. I've already talked to some of my friends, and they're planning on attending. I really hope I didn't just sell out the class so I don't get a ticket. So the Train and Learn event is kind of like a summit where there's different instructors coming through and teaching, and they're limiting the amount of people that can come so that the instructor to student ratio isn't thrown off. And they're not just bringing in firearms instructors. Like, I was talking to my buddy Lewis of Tactical Response and Elcar Concepts, and he was telling me about how they brought in a guy who works in the sports industry, and he gave a talk that was a lot about the learning aspect and how they grow their players in not just a physical sense, but also a cognitive sense. Basically what that means is it's not just about the shooty stuff. They're bringing in people from other industries to help us get better at the things we're doing and apply things that they're applying within their industry. So I'm very happy with my experience. I cannot wait to get back up there and train with Kevin again. The things he is doing with No Other Choice, with the Greenwood Range, and with Aiming for Truth, I'm very happy to be able to know a guy that is doing that stuff and to be able to have an example like that to follow. So links are in the description. Go check out what Kevin is doing. Thank you guys for watching, and remember that training saves lives.